live.
As soon as I eat a couple bites here, and then you.
Well, welcome everybody. I want to thank the members of the Sports Betting Workgroup, Senator Nancy King, Senator Melanie Griffith, Senator Corey McCray, Senator Addie Eckert, Senator Doug Peters, and of course, our distinguished chair of the committee, Senator Guy Gazzoni, who made sure that we convened this work group to solve the issues around sports betting. The one thing that I can say is that this group is going to get it done. This committee is going to get it done, and we're going to get sports betting accomplished this session. One of the charges that we had was to make sure that sports betting was done in a fair and equitable way, make sure that we're competitive with our neighboring states, that we're doing what we can to fund education, but also staying completely transparent and making sure that we're inclusive to have meaningful, small, minority, and women-owned participation. And so today we're going to be talking through some of the nuts and bolts of the bill. And there's been Matt Bennett, who's been an indispensable teammate who serves on the Department of Legislative Services, is going to walk us through what I look at as the McCray and Peters plan right now. And obviously it will be a work group product and hopefully a committee product. But Matt, why don't you walk us through sort of what we're looking at? And let me just frame it. We're going to first be looking at the licenses structure and who will or will not maybe be getting licenses, both Class A, Class B, and mobile licenses. So what I'll do is I'm going to have Matt walk through this, and then Senator McCray and Senator Peters can add wherever appropriate. And I would say for the colleagues on this call, I would just go ahead and unmute yourself and just ask a question if you want to jump in. This is going to be pretty free-flowing, but I did want to let those folks that are watching know that this is a public meeting. We wanted to make sure that this is done with full transparency, so everybody knew what we were doing every step of the way. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matt Bennett.
All right, thank you, Senator. So what you should be able to see here on the screen is the plan that was discussed this morning with regard to the new licensing structure. So this plan would have 5 licenses being issued. The Class A's and the Class B's are physical licenses, and then there's a mobile license that's going to be issued. The Class A's are the bigger operators, the bigger physical facilities. So you have in Class A1, VLT operators with over 1,000 machines, the horse racing licensee in Anne Arundel County, and then sports facilities. I think there were 3 that came over in the House bill. The Class A2s, and you can see the fees and the renewal fees correspond to the size, or if you will. The Class A2s are going to be the smaller VLT operators, and then one of the pieces is the 5% of the Class A's initial fees are going to go, 5% are going to go to the Small Minority and Women-Owned Business Fund. It's going to be a new fund that's going to be established to help disadvantaged businesses get into the sports wagering market. It'll be administered by the Department of Commerce, but it's with this 5% that's going to stand up the fund and give them the money to help assist those businesses to get into the market. The Class B licenses are really going to be open-ended licenses. You're going to have two types of B licenses. Basically, anybody who can fit into B2 is going to be any entity with less than 25 employees and less than $3 million in gross receipts. And then anybody who's not a B2 is going to be a B1. And so this was the catch-all license rather than designating certain entities the way the House bill did. The work group's approach was to open this up to anybody who fits into these categories, and so the default would be B1. And as you can see, the licensing fees try to correspond to the size of the entity. And then the 5th component is the mobile license. I should say the physical licenses are going to be available immediately. They're not going to be subject to regulation by SWARC. You're going to have to meet the the requirements that reporting requirements that SWORC may have, and SWORC's going to award the license, but because they're unlimited, there is no need to wait for the whole pool of applicants to come in and to have the regulations issued by SWORC. SWORC's involvement's really going to come into play with the mobile licenses. There, SWORC's going to have the evaluation, the study of the market to look at possible remedial measures. And we're going to include language to instruct SWORC to consider allowing mobile applicants that have a meaningful partnership with a disadvantaged business to get a head start into the market, to maybe have a year, maybe have a 6-month period. We're asking SWORC to evaluate that possibility through regulations to see if there's the ability to give the smaller guys an entry into the market before the larger operators come into play. And so this was the licensing structure that was talked about this morning.
Senator McCray and Senator Peters, but Senator McCray, anything to add there?
Yep, just commenting that it was a number of conversations that were had with minority businesses and those that had an interest just in this conversation of sports betting. And one of the things that kept coming up was from a capacity. Folks did not want to be left out of it. I think we saw that especially with the mobile licenses, with the 15 licenses, folks was trying to figure out how could there be more that possibly the Class A's would dominate that conversation and didn't really see themselves in that piece of it. Through those conversations, it was discussed and just said, the question, why did we have a cap and possibly making it unlimited to make sure that everyone is in this conversation, especially the folks that were just we were learning, or I should say I was learning about as time went along. Tried to take a look at SB4, at House Bill 940 and look and see how does this fit if we were to rework something. I think that when we looked at SB4, we know that the product that came out of the Senate, that number was at 2.5 respectfully, and then the smaller casinos was at 1.5. So seeing that was already agreed upon metric that we could use, we had Class A in reference to a definition that came out of SB4 with the 1,000+ machines and what would the smaller casinos look like, and then taking a look at the OTBs, the bingos, the minority businesses, and then shifting down to Class B and figuring out what would be appropriate. How can we make sure that we also engage Class A's in this conversation, this very important conversation with small and minority-owned businesses, and that's how we would get to the 5%, the small business, the fund that I'm referencing, and helping with that equation of the puzzle. And then most important conversations that we can have is these mobile licenses, knowing that we wanted to still be able to do from an unlimited standpoint, but we also wanted to make sure that the intent, the heart of it is still that we have the participation with minority businesses in this equation with the mobile licenses, and that did not leave the bill. You'll see that that's still on the side, and I think that, Mr. Chair, that is just how I think that we partially got there, and I'll let Senator Peters comment at this moment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So what you see in the chart is a tiered approach. What we talked about was that there's different players going to come into this market, and so what we tried to do is put the fees commensurate with the different players. There's going to be some big players, that we're going to come in with the VLTs. There's been some discussion about 25% on those. That's a different kind of player than the player that's going to come in, at the $10,000 to $50,000 range. So we wanted to make sure it was open to everybody. The one thing we did also is we eliminated naming names. We had one come over from the House that everybody was looking at, and then everybody else wanted to get their name in the bill, and it became an endless process where, people want to be in the bill and put their name in the bill. So this opens it back up. I think there was a lot of concern with the smaller potential bidders that the big guys would suck up all the licenses and there'd only be 2 or 3 left. And there'd be 100 people fighting for 3 licenses. So what we figured was, let's let the market determine what happens. And I think it's important to note, as Senator McCray said, Senator Zucker said, speed to the market. We understand it. We understand that the other states already have it. So we don't want to handicap anybody getting there because we're competing with Delaware, we're competing with Pennsylvania. They already have it, and Virginia's going to get it, I think, in February next year. So we want to have a no cap, which is what Senator McCray proposes, and then we want to have a rolling application. So you don't have to sit there and wait till everybody comes in and then, make one big determination. We'll just do it on a rolling basis. And if you're a VLT now, you've already been vetted. That was another issue. We don't want to re-vet you because you've already put a lot of money on. Many of the VLTs put hundreds of millions of dollars of MBEs are working with. So that needs to be recognized by the SWARC. And so this is the product that we came up with. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Senator Peters. Thank you, Senator McCray. Thank you, everybody, for your hard work on this. I just had some clarifying questions or maybe points. So, Senator McCray and Peters, we have a lot of important other small businesses, if you will, but Maryland entities like your off-track betting facilities, your rod and reels, your other folks. And you also have people that might be interested in, these smaller venues getting licenses. It's your intent that these Class Bs would go to like your rod and reels, and instead of specifically writing them into the bill because we wouldn't know based on how many employees they have whether they'd fall into the $250,000 category or the $50,000 category. Right now, it seems like Class B licenses would be unlimited, so the intent is that they would fall into that category and they could get a license that way. That's the intent, correct?
Yes.
And then on the mobile licenses, the thought is to try to get them up and running as soon as possible, and that there would, based on what you said, there would be sort of, if there's this partnership, there'd be this preference, and that way we can get the mobile folks up and running as well. But on the bricks and mortar, sounded like for both A and B, they would be up and running. They would be up and running after they check the boxes. They would get their bricks and mortar, and they'd be up and running. Is that correct?
Yep. Talk with the Lottery Commission. DLS was able to do that just to get an estimate and think that it can happen. I believe the end of the year. Matt, you will be able to comment a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe earlier than the end of the year. They were hopeful by fall. They hadn't seen the particulars of the proposal, but they said if you took away the need for SWARC to do the competitive bidding style, that it would greatly speed up the process.
And that's the physical locations, not the mobile.
And then I know we'll go into locations more, but my understanding is that it's the work group's intent to keep the same kind of mileage restriction that was in the House bill, just to make sure that we're not piling on top of each other and that everyone has an opportunity to thrive in the market. I think that's the intent of the work group as well. Is there anything else that we would like to go through on this before we go into tax rate and other things like that?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I just had one point for clarification. Whether it's Senator McCray or Senator Peters, in the proposal that is evolved and is before us, I note that we have the sports facilities in the Class A1, and just wanted to verify that in this proposal, we have removed the restrictions that the House bill had in terms of a certain number of game days or a certain number of activity days at those facilities, that they would in fact have equity with the other licensees and be able to operate at whatever schedule they deem appropriate.
Yep. In the conversation, you had a number of locations that was concerned about the number of days, Pimlico being one. There's several others that were out there, but yes, that was one of the big discussions. And I think that it's a uniform or we're all unified in reference to 3 probably more appropriate than limited it to those game days.
Great. Thank you.
Chair.
Senator Zucker, I mean, maybe we should keep the mileage thing open a little bit here because, you know, you've got 2 stadiums and you've got Horseshoe, and again, that's Senator McCrae's area, but you know, you kind of got to look at all that in whole and how he wants to handle it. So.
Are you talking about, so right now we would have, it's just for, so the mileage would be 1.5 anywhere else except your Eastern Shore and Western Maryland, which would be 15 miles proximity around one another. That's what would be that's in the House bill right now. Because what we want to just be careful of is that the market doesn't get oversaturated. Matt, do you have another?
Let me jump in a second. I had a question.
Yeah.
So I noticed it says sports facilities in A1, and I believe that to mean the 3 professional teams. Maybe you should just say professional, because should some minor league teams want to do something at their stadiums, that doesn't count. They're not A1s, right? Would they fall? I would guess they fall in B1 because they probably wouldn't qualify. They wouldn't fall under the criteria in B2, so they would then be B1s. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that would be my interpretation of it.
Okay. I mean, it lends itself, and I know it's been said a couple times in different ways, but sort of from this free market perspective, there's literally no one out there, or no entity that couldn't somehow get a license, assuming that it adhered to the basic criteria. And that's the bottom line.
Yep.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay.
Anything else on any other points that want to be made on this? Matt, do you have another piece of paper for us as well?
Yeah, I've got, here we go. So here are some of the other highlights that the group talked about this morning. And just to reiterate, the SWARC is the Class A and the Class Bs. The intention is that the reporting requirements that are still involved with SWARC are going to be involved, and they're still going to work to meet MB goals going forward, but they're not going to have to wait for the regulations to be issued. So, just to make clear that the Class A and the Bs the idea is to have them up and running as soon as possible. It's the mobiles that SWARC's going to look at how to figure out who to give maybe a possible head start to after looking at the market and issuing possible regulations. And so we went over some of that on the last slide, but the tax structure that was discussed was for the class A's and mobile. It would just be a flat 15%, and then
now,
for the
Matt,
class
Matt,
B's.
before, I have a question. Do you have a sheet that you can show on this, or are you just going off of? I didn't know if we had anything we're presenting, or you're just going through some of the discussion.
Can you not see the?
No, I just wanted. That's why I was flagging it. We're still on page 1.
Oh.
Of.
Oh, all right. Well, how do I? Let's try this. All right. Does this look
There
different?
we go.
All
Yes,
right.
thank you, Matt. Thank you very much.
All right. All right. So for the tax structure, class A's and mobile are going to be 15%, and it'll be a flat 15%. The House had this graduated tax rate. And then for the class B's, it would be a flat 13%. And so the locations, one of the issues that popped up was if one of the sports facilities wants to partner with somebody to provide their sports betting services, who they can partner with. There's some concern in certain areas of the state about there's some entities that are very close to each other. So this would limit the sports facilities to, if they're going to partner with a casino, it needs to be the casino that's located in the county that the sports facility is located in. And there was some concern about local authority here. And so language will be added that requires that all sports wagering facilities will remain subject to local zoning laws. Senator Zucker had brought up some consumer protection language he wants to see in there. These are some highlights that the work group thought were appropriate to include in the bill. I won't read them all to you. We're gonna make explicit in there that the exclusion program is going to apply to the sports betting program too, so that people can self-exclude. And then prohibiting ads to minors and other at-risk individuals. That was something that seemed to be very important to the group. So we're going to make sure that that's in the bill. And then the next bullet, I think we already hit on, but the sports complexes and Pimlico are going to have be on equal footing as any other facility license, so they can operate year round without having to have certain events going on and things like that. There was concern about identifying subcontractors earlier on in the process, so the facility out licenses are going to need to identify who they're using as subcontractors earlier on in the process and not on the back end. And then there was another provision that raised concerns about whether any future MBE requirements could be waived, and so we're going to make clear in the bill that no MBE requirements can be waived by the Lottery Commission when they're approving licenses. And this section really lays out how the idea of that fund that Senator Zucker talked about earlier is going to work. This is that 5% that's coming off of the Class A initial fees. These monies would be used to assist the smaller disadvantaged businesses who might want to get into the market. This would assist them in getting up and running, and that would be a program that would be run by the Department of Commerce. And then the final provision that the group talked about this morning was dealt with the hotel at outside of Ocean Downs. If you'll recall, there was a prohibition put in either 2007 or 12. I don't recall which year, that would repeal a hotel around the Ocean Downs facility on the Eastern Shore. And so this bill would also include a repeal of that prohibition to allow Ocean Downs to build a hotel closer to its facility on the Eastern Shore.
Matt, what about the HBCU language?
What's that?
About the HBCU language?
Oh, there was also HBCU language that Senator Peters brought forward this morning. This would encourage, or the proposal, I believe, was to mandate 1.5 million in general funds for 2 of the HBCUs to stand up programs that would assist. They wouldn't necessarily assist with entry into this market, but they would assist in developing programs for the skill set that this type of industry needs. And so I believe the proposal was to mandate 1.5 million for 2 of the schools, and then have a reporting requirement in there.
Thanks.
So it'd be a total of 3 million in general funds.
Correct.
Okay. Any issues with that? Okay. And Senator McCray, thank you for your work on that as well. Next, we have we're going to be incorporating some stakeholder amendments on making sure that prohibits bets against player discipline rulings and replay review. So we'll be adding some amendments, stakeholder amendments, just to clarify intent. The other thing is, and I just wanted to get everybody's sign off, our goal again is to have us up and running, making sure that we're doing things in a meaningful way when it comes to including your small minority women-owned businesses. But in order to get things up and running quickly and make sure that SWARC and the Gaming and Lottery Commission could establish regs, the thought would be we would make this into an emergency bill.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. The other thing that's kind of hanging out there that's a little bit of low-hanging fruit is right now, if you apply for a license under the House bill, if you apply for a license and for some reason you don't receive it, and that Senator Eckert has brought this to my attention as well. But if for some reason you don't get the license, the state would keep your license fee. So I was just trying to get a sense of where individuals might be on, do we return partial license fee depending on what class of license they were applying for. I just wanted to throw it out to the group that this is something that could come up, and I just wanted to see if any of you had any thoughts on how we could resolve that.
Mr. Chairman, I would be curious. I don't know if Matt or someone at DLS knows, is there any precedence for that? Did we do anything maybe with the marijuana licenses or any other licenses that the state has issued? I know that when we first had gaming, there were other bidders. So I'm just curious if not that that means that we should or shouldn't. I'm just curious if we've done it before.
I would need to look back and to see how we treated the licensing fees in the past.
Yeah, because I know we did hear, and Senator Peters and I have talked about it a lot. We have heard from some applicants in previous rounds of opportunities with the state that expended a large amount during that application process that, kind of devastated their finances. So it might be something worth looking into.
And, Senator Griffith has done amazing work around this and done a lot of research around sports betting. And Senator Griffith brought to my attention that there are other states that also have unlimited licenses class as well. So Senator Griffith, thank you for all your hard work on this bill. Anybody else have anything, Matt, anything else that we're going to have some technical amendments that we're going to have to put in. We have a lot of stakeholder amendments that we're going to try to incorporate in this to make it to help just clarify the bill. But I think overall, that's the nuts and bolts of it. And I think, really ultimately it's not us, picking favorites. It's a matter of everybody has an opportunity to have skin in the game and get up and running in an inclusive and fair way. And Maryland's going to be a leader in this arena.
Yeah, I was just going to thank you, Mr. Chairman and Chair Gazone, for your leadership on this issue, but to say, I know I, along with probably everyone on this work group and everyone on the committee, has heard from so many community leaders and stakeholders and, folks that have an interest in the industry. And there's just been a tremendous amount of work on everyone's part in terms of research and sending material to us and having informational meetings with all of us. And as you mentioned, the staff has just done a fantastic job. So thank you for your leadership and everyone for all of the input. Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Well, thank you, Senator Griffith. And I think just the comprehensiveness of this really demonstrates that it's our plan, and it's a plan forward for Maryland. So thank you, all of my colleagues on this call that, put in a lot of work. Senator Griffith's right. This is not just one person. This is everybody working together to try to move Maryland forward on this issue. And Matt, I don't know if there's anything else outstanding on this, but I know we have to get to committee soon, but is there anything else that I might have left out that needs to be brought up?
Well, lottery did just remind me that the last time around, the initial fees were non-refundable. So I just got a text message to remind me that the fees then during the first time around, I think when the VLT licenses were being issued, that they were non-refundable. And lottery did mention too, for your consideration, was the cost of the background checks can vary considerably and can end up outpacing some of the initial fees. So they did ask yesterday when I talked to them that the committee or the work group consider the applicants being responsible for the background check fees.
And how much, and is that standard for other licenses and everything?
I would need to check with them. I know some of the background checks vary by the size of the company that's being investigated. So the background check fees can vary considerably depending on who the applicant is. And some of them can get extremely high. And so it can end up costing the state in the first year is what lottery was explaining to me.
Sarah Griffith, did you have a?
No, I'd just be interested in seeing, like, I have no sense of a range, from.
Yeah, I think I had heard that one of the applicants could get as high as $1 million.
And that's
Does it get-
state money or applicant money right now?
Applicants.
Well, right now the bill's silent as to who pays for that.
Okay.
So, and that would be for your bigger licensees, if you will, right? If they're
Well, I think everybody's going to have a background check.
correct, but I'm
who
talking
is
about the cost.
applying. So.
That
So
deep
that-
dive vetting for some of those entities, I thought that already had been through that process. They would have
Yes,
to go through that.
right. Some of the bigger entities that have already been through that vetting process shouldn't have to go through the whole background check again. Some of the newer entities that may be applying and haven't been through that background check would have to go through the background check. The lottery contracts that out to a subcontractor, I believe. And so it's basically who pays the fees for that subcontractor to do the background check.
So the final thing is, and I don't know if we glanced over it, but I just wanted to just speak very quickly on the fund that we'd be setting up. The Class A licenses would help donate into this small minority women-owned fund. And the purpose of the fund is to help your Class B licensees with license fee costs, operating costs, or targeted training around sports betting. So I just wanted to at least outline what the purpose of the fund was. It's really to help support the Class Bs as they're getting up and running. And as my colleagues have reminded me time and again, it's not only about sustaining them, but also making sure that they can grow. So I think, I don't know if anyone has anything else, but other than that, really appreciate everybody's time. Does everybody agree on sort of this plan at this point? Okay. So what we'll do, Chairman Gazzoni, is
Yeah, we're going to go into it in 15 minutes. We're going to be in a voting session. This bill will be up for discussion, and we'll see how far we can take it with the committee and make sure that everybody understands what's going on. And we'll just go from there. But I want to thank all of you for working on this issue. I know we all been received a lot of input from a lot of sources, and I know that that's been constant for many weeks now.
Lots of text messages.
Yes.
Saturday meetings.
Saturday meetings. Yep. Lots of things that have happened. A lot of people are interested. Just conceptually, and I'll say this when we get into our voting session too. I mean, the dilemma of trying to decide where the line is has been challenging. And the fact that you have gotten past that and have come up with a proposal that is open to everyone is really I think, a good solution. And we'll just keep moving forward. So thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon in the public budget and taxation voting session. Take
Yep.
care. Thank you.
Okay.